Then maybe we'll put that document up here and into my laptop. And
Yes.
I can just
I have it up already.
change it up. Okay.
Well, the transcriptions are picking up, so that must mean it's working. Testing 1, 2, testing 3, 4.
Check 1, 2, test 1, check 1, 2. Excellent.
They've only missed 20 points. I didn't turn in half days. On one of the doctor ones. I didn't turn in the work, like the research paper.
Why is this giving me?
I just turned in the Excel.
Wow,
It says it's
Hello, everybody.
88 is good. Take it.
Wait, oh boy.
I got knocked
Wait.
down because, so in this class, we
Okay.
do this Excel and then you're supposed to use AI to write your paper.
Like that is the assignment.
And,
No.
and here's what I did is
I was just
did
so
it,
done
and
that
I was
day. I
so
did all the
fine,
research.
I mean, I'm sure fine, and I just submitted it, but my AI like tripped out or something, and so it was writing something that was opposite of what my Excel. And he's like, Aaron, you need to make sure that your AI is sending out the right thing. And I got marked down 15 points. You didn't even turn it in, and you
Yes,
got
for
marked
that.
down 20.
Financial
Analytics. He said.
Sounds awful.
I could
the
see
name.
it.
Analytics
He's
does not
saying
sound good.
that
You gotta go to like a
this is like-
data like
I mean, in a way, I think he's right. where,
research
like, you have to be
database and
able
like
to-
pull data down and then
to
like,
get the
filter it
data.
and then put it in
But,
AI.
like analyzing and stuff, he's like, that's what AI is going to be used for all the time. So he's like, it's better to teach you guys how to use AI for your stuff than.
But do you use AI?
And I was, as it turned out, I was too stupid to use it correctly. So there you go.
It's a tool.
Where did you
Like,
send
it's
it?
Something I have to like learn
Teams?
how to use.
My
Tell the story.
workbook is in Teams and Word is that link you shared with me. So I have no idea. I know.
It's in my OneDrive.
I'm not really
Software
good
hours
at
for
sharing.
voice. Well, I did the big part of it. I had made a.
Is it just us three here or what?
Abby's gonna be late. And
Okay.
I haven't heard from Rachel or Bob yet, but Alex is online.
Hello,
Alrighty.
can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Awesome. Yeah, Rachel let me know that she wasn't going to make it for RH or RA stuff.
Welcome.
Your mic cut out.
Alex, I had some paper responses from our S&A recommendations. I put them in the Teams for you to review under, if you go to General Base Funding 2729, they're all three right here at the bottom. So we received 3 requests for reconsideration of our primary or preliminary allocations.
Sorry, Robbie, where was that again?
In the Teams, under Base Funding 2729, if you open that up, the 3 pieces of feedback we got from our recommendations are in there for you to look at. Everybody else has them in front of them here. Can you not hear me on the mic?
I can hear you on the mic. No, I'm just looking for it.
Okay.
It's under our current meeting.
Yeah, so if you go into General Base Funding Presentations, the purple folder,
Mhm.
and then all the way at the very bottom, the last 3 that says S&A request, campus activities, publicity, and slice.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Those are the only pieces of feedback I've gotten based on our recommendations as of this very moment.
Gotcha.
So Alex, I might try and burn some time with Rachel running a little bit late.
Oh,
and
no, Rachel
Abby
will not.
running a little
Rachel
bit
won't be
late.
here.
You said Rachel won't be here at all.
Yeah, Rachel won't be here for
Okay,
RA
my apologies.
meetings.
Okay, let me get our agenda up and running. Alex, would you like to wait for Abby to discuss the base funding recommendations, or do you want to move forward with just the 5 of you?
I think we could move forward with the 5 of us for now.
Super. Okay, let me go ahead and
Alrighty.
share my screen and then I will let you call everything to order.
Alrighty. Well, with that in mind, I will call this meeting to order at 3:03 p.m. First up, we're going into roll call / attendance. Chair Alex M is here. Vice Chair Ba.
Present.
Parliamentarian Rachel is not here. Eros,
Present.
Austin,
Present.
Alex C,
Yep.
and Abby T is running late. Alrighty, moving on, we will go to the approval of the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda.
Motion
Second.
by Alex C, seconded by, I believe that was Austin. All right, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Alrighty, and going into the approval of the minutes.
I motion to approve the minutes as well. Second.
Motion by Alex C, seconded by Austin. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Alrighty. Motion passed unanimously. Alrighty, going in, there seems to be no reports from Chair Advisor or CWU. So now we go into the communications received.
No communications received.
Awesome. Alrighty, going into the first call for public comment. And moving on, we will go to our first new business item, the 2027 to 2029 base funding recommendations.
Okay, so clearly you all were here last weekend. We made our preliminary recommendations. We sent them out on Sunday afternoon, and you all got those too. Or I blind copied you, I think. Anyway, I have received one piece of feedback in many thanks and gratitude from the Menashtash and Lions Rock for reinstating their funding. Otherwise, the other 3 pieces of feedback we got are in front of you or Alex for you online. And those were provided by Slice Campus Activities in the Publicity Center. So if you want to take a peek at those, this is their feedback on your guys' recommendation of their budget for the 27 to 29. So if you want to take a minute to review those, and then I think it's probably best to have a discussion. Ideally, this is where you all decide based on their feedback if you would like to reconsider the recommendation you made, or whether you would like to move forward with the preliminary recommendations and make them final recommendations in which you'd need to vote on moving those up to the Budgetary Advisory Council. I always forget what's the PBAC. Thank you. President's Budgetary Advisory Council. Sorry, y'all. I have been messing acronyms up all day. So I'll just give you a minute to review the pieces of feedback. And then if you all would like to start a discussion on that, we'll go from there.
Which one of these are we going to start with?
Thank you, Ba. You're right. We should have a little bit more structure to this. Let's start.
Yeah.
The first one I received was from Campus Activities. So it should be the first one on your stack. So we'll go Campus Activities, Publicity, and Slice because that is the order in which I received the emails.
Okay. So looking at these cuts, campus activities, Slice, and publicity, I believe are all areas that got hit with the 4% cut. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, I'm going to bring up the budget tracker right now for you guys. Okay. Let's start. We decided we're going to start with campus activities. So correct. Let me make this bigger too, so everybody can see it, even though you all are young. Yeah, so line 13 of where we are right here on this budget sheet. So campus activities requested $228,694. And then you all did do the 4% budget cut on their ask, which gave them $219,546.24, which was a 4% budget cut, totaling $9,147.76.
I open up the floor for any discussion.
Before we start on any of these, I have a comment. No, you're good. It feels like every time that it doesn't seem to matter who it is, these groups attempt to convince us towards their preferred ends, it always feels like a direct threat to student hours. And considering the variation in services that many of these allocations provide, I'm at a point where I personally feel like it's manipulation and that there are other ways to make up for the budget cuts than cutting students. And I just want to put that on record.
I think it's a fair sentiment to have. I will say, to play devil's advocate as the chair of the S&A committee, the area that we've known is likely to be cut first and foremost is student hours, simply because, well, it's the easiest area for these departments to cut without any significant issue. Personally, I have my own feelings about that being the first thing usually on the chopping block. However, this is something that we knew as a committee was probably going to happen as the first thing to be targeted.
I'd like to bring something to the floor here. Kind of getting more clarification. So I'm looking at some of these numbers and I'm seeing full funding for some and not full funding for others. And I'm not saying that whatever there isn't justified or justified, but can I get more explanation why some departments got everything they asked and some got less? And specifically, I'm asking, what is 4%? What was the logic used to justify 4%? And what was some of the logic used to justify funding? I'm not criticizing anyone here, for example, but let's say I'm looking at the theater and arts film department. They got exactly what they're asked for. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I just want to understand what was some of the logic and conversation that went into some of these decisions, please.
Alex, do you want to go for that one, or shall I?
Yeah, I got it. So a lot of the logic that went into this was we did a 4% cut across the board to start off with. We deliberated one by one in the initial stages of the first day. However, going into the tail end of the first day and going into the second, we decided as a baseline cut across the board, 4% seemed manageable for something that we could just do as a good conversation point to start off with the day after. After that point, there were a lot of bigger decisions made, particularly regarding case management and the music department travel to not fund them for, in the case of case management, it was a area that we thought was just too vital for the S&A committee as a whole to fund, because that should be something that is a foundational and structural thing in the committee or in the university, not specifically because of the S&A committee and because of music department travel, because it was a new area and this was just not the year to bring on a new base funding area. So those two gave us significant leeway after the 4% cut had been made for us to look back on the cuts that were made and see what areas we thought were vital. One of the ideologies or the consensus of the committee when making this decision was the larger areas have far more of an ability and a flexibility with cuts to be made. These smaller areas who have requested, 7,000, 10,000, 15, 30, they rely much more on these funds than, say, publicity slice campus activities. Not to say that they are less important or that they serve less students. However, looking at the severity and the critical need of these S&A funds, the committee found it fit to go back and redeliberate on the smaller areas first and then go from bottom to top, essentially.
May I add something? In addition to that, which I think the chair's response was quite thorough, but in addition to that, there are sections that we didn't touch, like those allocations that directly impact online students and students at the various centers off campus because they aren't served. They aren't given the same services as students who are on campus, so they're already missing out on a lot. And it felt we deliberated and came to the conclusion that it would feel very wrong to take more from them, considering they pay the same S&A fee. And as a direct response to your question about the theater department, it was our understanding that that money was to pay students and only to pay students to take because that's the amount of money that they needed to maintain 2 student positions that will not have funding if we did not give it to them.
Can I clarify for Bob? It's 6 total positions in 3 different areas, as well as the money is almost out from the donation they got. And after that, there would be no jobs for the 6 or how many job positions they have.
Thank you for the clarification on the numbers.
I'm just going to add one thing as far as the, I'm not sure if you remember the funding priorities as well. So the top priority are the contractual
obligations.
Yeah.
and supporting the building. And so some of those major support areas, rec center, sub, the bond payment, the admin fee, and then the accounting support was also left fully funded. So that sort of how they kind of started it, Alex, is like, okay, here's the ones we're just going to take off the table because due to the funding priorities, they have to be funded, sort of. I mean, and then kind of started from there as far as like, okay, here's everything that's left. And that's the only part I wanted to add. Then Alex and Bob did a good job of describing the rest.
So, going back to chair member or committee member or his boss exact title, vice chair. Pardon me, vice chair Ball. I wholeheartedly and understand the point that there are students at satellite campuses that don't get to experience these services. So funding them to the fully might be unfair in that aspect. But I'd like to counter that by saying, would cutting these services, cutting some of the funding for the students who are on campus, wouldn't that directly kind of put the students on campus at a disadvantage in some way or another?
That was the hard conversation that we really missed your input on. And I'm sorry that you had to serve your duty during that time, but I promise we were thinking about, and we brought it up multiple times, what we were really trying to be fair. The students that are on campus get all access to all of these activities from all of these other services, and there's a massive list of allocation requests. The students that are off campus only get helped by those 2.
Thank you for your answer.
Now I'm just going to add that those students also do pay the same fee. The online students and center students pay the same fee as the Ellensburg students with more limited access to those services.
But I guess my point is that, and while these are very, very great arguments, and they hold amazing logic, guess another thing that just kind of a point for me is that, like other schools, for example, Wazoo, they have a satellite campus in Tri-Cities, and for a person, because looked at I looked into that school there, going to Tri-Cities, and for those people there, they still have to pay the exact same thing, and they don't get anything there, just get that campus, that just your classes, and that's it. So what I'm trying to say with this is that shouldn't those students, I'm not speaking on behalf of students here, but shouldn't it kind of be expected that if you're not going to attend the main campus, that you wouldn't expect that you would get the main campus feel over there? Now, I'm not saying that anything in particular. I'm just saying that, I guess. I'm not saying anything in particular. I'm kind of just saying that, like, in some essence, I understand some of the cuts, and obviously the hard decisions have to be made, but I don't know. That's just a food for thought there from me.
I think I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like we feel very strongly about this. I'm willing to entertain the idea of maybe a 1 or 2% to those positions to see if we can find what we need for these ones.
And this is fine. I'm just telling you this for process. You don't have any money. So if you're going to give it to campus activities, you have to take it from somebody else.
Right.
Okay. Just making sure that everybody knows that's on the table. If you want to renegotiate any of them, totally fine. But I just want to be clear that you have allocated the funds you have. The only other option is the $25,000 you set aside for your supplemental for next year. You could choose to not set aside that supplemental and allocate it out. That is the other option.
Robbie or Aaron or Trent, for context, what was it? Centers activities, or was it the other online career services west side that was predominantly professional salary, or am I misremembering?
That would be the career services one.
Yep.
Gotcha.
We might be able to clean up. This is just an idea. We might be able to clean up all three of these responses with a 1 or 2% on one of those allocations, and then a decrease in our supplemental savings by about 10,000, bringing us down to 15,000 to pass on to the people next year.
I really like that idea. I like to propose that maybe we don't have to shrink our supplemental as much. I think just cut. I obviously understand we have to cut some costs for sure, but maybe I'm proposing just a little less harsh cut. Harsh is probably not the right word, but just a little less cut, because I understand the budgeting and all this as well.
I would probably recommend a $5,000 cut, if anything, because as we've seen, supplemental can range from a variety of things. I think 20,000 would give a decent amount of wiggle room. And with that 1 or 2% cut from, let's say, we can't really cut from career services west side because that's a professional area. But let's say we relook at West Side Center's activities and do a 2% cut.
Yeah, I would also like to put on the record that the 4% that we were looking at as a general starting point was us trying to get as few cuts as possible. We didn't want, we really tried to minimize the number of people who took major punches to the face. I mean, I say as few cuts as possible, but I mean in amount. Not everybody got cut a little bit. We tried to spread it out.
I wanted to.
Rather.
I also do want to say this to the committee. We had to make a lot of very hard decisions, and looking at the responses that we got, 3 responses out of the areas, I would say, even reading through them, there was an understanding of the hard decisions we had to make, and I'm very grateful for that. With that in mind, we have a lot of tough decisions to make. People understand that, and it's okay to share your mind.
Yeah, I'd like to also just thank everyone here for being a part of this. And I know that this is a tough decision, and there are conversations that come with after tough decisions for sure. So I'd like to genuinely also thank the work of everyone here. So
Okay.
thank you all.
If you would look at the screen, a 2% cut to centers activities roughly comes out to $7,164. With 5,000 potentially being taken out from our supplemental, that would come out to, was it 13,000 roughly? Which, while not incredible, is definitely enough to fill in the gaps here and there for the 3 areas that have come back. Not 200,000.
I'll set up this the same way that we had it. I will attempt.
I'm gonna just say another thing. Alex, welcome back. We're really glad. I'm really glad that you came in with like what you wanted to talk about right up front.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. Sorry I had drill last weekend and I had to unthankfully miss probably the most important conversation ever, but I'm glad that we're able here to talk about it right now.
So I do not believe I have access to the publicity center letter because I see 2 from the campus activities in there. However, if I could make a suggestion to the board, seeing as campus activities and Slice both do not have an outside source of revenue and publicity does, with the 13,000 that we have, I might recommend a 5,000 to Slice and campus activities, and then potentially 3,000 to publicity.
I think this might be this might be a little tough, but I like the idea of looking at departments that have that have opportunities to use outside sources and for funding. So I think if we were to cut corners, I think cutting corners from people who can produce their own corners that are being cut, I think would make the most sense compared to the people that obviously can't.
So if you guys look at your the sheet, the blue sort of two-sided sheet that's actually this one, there's a other revenue line column, and that is sort of going to represent outside revenue as well, like which would be their self-generated as well as any other external sources. So I think that's going to include the radio station, the ECLC, which has already taken a 6% reduction, publicity center, the observer. I think the art gallery, maybe a little bit. Pulse. I think maybe the museum gets a little bit, but I think that they have like a foundation. I don't think it's actually revenue that they're generating. And that's it, I think, except for the Monastash books that are sold at the bookstore, which I don't think is significant.
The floor is open for any continued discussion.
So I can understand what talks have been. So looking at 2% from center's activities and then taking reducing by 5 from supplemental next year with that one for I do agree with that one. I cannot get my mind wrapped around for center's activities because of the communications we had like during the deliberations, where looking at how many of these students are 1,700 of the total 8 some thousand, can't remember, so that's what, not quite a quarter but near that of all the students. And here is all of these different areas that this money is going towards for people here on campus, and there's 2 that support almost a quarter of these online students. And yes, other universities may also do it like that, but why should we be like other universities?
So for clarity, what I'm hearing you say, Austin, is the S&A fee that is paid by these other students, the 1,700 that are not directly located on campus, goes towards providing activities and services to the students who are on campus. And if I remember correctly, this is the conversation that we had on Saturday. But that's what you're saying.
Yes.
All right. Just
I like to make a point here. Well, there's students that are on campus here that do also online as well. We've all taken various online classes. I also know people that live in Ellensburg and also do online. So by that, if we were to cut more student services for students on campus, we could potentially be cutting services for students that live in Ellensburg but are also online as well.
And just to add to that, there is a differentiation between someone who takes online classes and still is an Ellensburg person. So they are still considered in the system an Ellensburg campus student. So the 1,700 truly are online only students.
And just to add to that, some of those could be in Ellensburg, but they're typically located outside of Ellensburg.
if y'all don't mind, I'm gonna need clarification on does this allocation affect the distribution of online classes, or is it, as previously discussed, the making sure that the professionals that are the connection between the school and the online students at the various centers we have in Washington are taken care are paid, and that the students at these various centers are able to have an occasional sort of event the same way that we have the snowball and student appreciation day.
Yeah. Yes, so the West Side Student Life provides full-time staffing, student staffing, and programming monies to support online and site center students for exactly that, campus activities.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to point out to the committee, while we are the ones who are making the recommendation that will go forward from here, I do not want this to become a discussion of a priority of on-campus students or online students, because ultimately both can function. Ultimately, with a reduction of this kind, both can function after this. While they might not be able to function at their original capacity, with a reduction to either, it is not in any way a full defunding of the area.
Thank you for that addition.
Mm-hmm.
So, based on the discussion thus far, are we going, are we trying to get to a point of being able to uh, respond in full to these three responses that we got? Or are we trying to get to a point where we feel um, like we hear them and we're going to give them a little bit more back from somewhere? Because then we're still going to have to tell the people that we take that money from why.
Yeah, I just want to add one more point of clarification in there. You don't have to do anything. You can keep your recommendations as is. There is no requirement to do anything. I will say something Trent brought up earlier that I didn't consider until this moment, that if you change your funding, we would need to, I feel like it would only be fair. So hypothetically, if you take 2% from Westside Campus Life and you give it to campus activities, we would then send the recommendations out with a new budget spreadsheet. And I think it would only be fair to allow them to then provide you their feedback. The problem being, as you all know, we're going into spring break. So it would require you all to meet next Friday to then allow feedback, or we could do it virtually. Again, we can be flexible on that. But in order to allow the same provided to each area, they would also be able to provide feedback on what you all changed.
So oh yeah, for the beginning of this fall, how much was left from last year's, like for the supplemental? Like, yes.
I want to say it was like 13,000, because at the end, the committee, allocated most of the remainder of their supplemental funding to help areas over the summer. I don't expect that to happen because these areas should have included whatever they need for the summer. But this 20,000 would be, I think, more than what they started with. And then keeping in mind, same thing in the policy, salary savings. So if a full-time staff position is open, vacant more than a month, that comes back. And then any unspent funds come back, and then there'll be unspent funds this year.
So I would like to propose that if we were to give these three areas any funding, and I do not say we give them full, but at least be like, hey, if we were give them any, we recognize that this was hard. Here's a couple thousand each of them. And I know that's difficult, but I do propose that we just take it from our supplemental and not do any more cuts to any other areas.
Yeah, I'd like to respect committee member Alex's feelings about what he saw from our deliberations, especially considering why he had to be gone for the deliberations themselves. At the same time, I think I'm in agreement that these don't need to be fully responded to by taking from other people. We have we pulled together extra supplemental funding to pass on to next year, but we wouldn't be so bad a team if we still left we did great. We did fine this year with the numbers that we had, and we would still be, if we went down to 15,000, we'd still be leaving next year's team with more than we had at the start. With that being noted, I'm looking at it looks like this slice, we only cut them less than 3%. So that one's, and then the campus activities got the 4, and yes.
On the slice one. So I'm never sure if my spreadsheet is helpful or creates more problems, but on this one, for slice, it's a 2.58 reduction from the prior cycle. What we reduced them by 4%. And I
like
probably
that.
should have had another column in there. The 2.58% is a reduction from last cycle. This 17,000 is the reduction from what they asked for this time.
Thank you for that clarification. I needed it. I read it wrong.
So I was wondering if we look, so we have minus 2.58 from the last cycle. I'm wondering how much would that be? How much to get it to where it's the same amount from last cycle, and same with the other two areas. That's 12. Ooh, that's a lot.
I also want to just throw one thing at you real quick as you all think about it. Remember that a lot of the supplemental funding that you all got last year was from areas that underspent either at the end of June and or month to month. We're taking back that salary savings. So when Aaron was talking about that 2 meetings ago that we were getting about $5,000 a month, consider as you're giving or as you're allocating supplemental funds that potentially will happen again because areas will have vacancies. People may underspend what you gave them for 26. That all comes back and can be used as a supplemental.
That is good to know.
And just to add to that, all of the areas that receive base funding are eligible to come back for supplemental. So an area, let's just pick on one that's not being talked about. Let's say, I don't know, ASCWU. If they run out of funding, maybe if you say go with what you've got, and then if you run out of funding, if there's supplemental, come ask for more. So that is still an option for all of these next year. Can't guarantee that what the supplemental budget would be.
So are we can we take a quick vote on whether or not we're going to be doing that 1 or 2% to the center's activities?
Yeah, I think this would be kind of an unofficial vote here, more than anything, but all in favor of cutting center's activities by 1 or 2%, please say aye. All opposed.
Can I get a point of clarification? When we say 1 or 2%, I kind of want a better number. Like, can we get an exact percent, please?
2%.
Thank you.
If we were to cut center's activities by 2%, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All abstain?
Aye.
Righty, with a 2-1 split.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Looking at what we have now and looking at the extra funding we have in supplemental, I do not think it is wise to go back into re-deliberation for next week, where we could potentially have this same conversation over and over and over again, when we do have an extra sum of money that will likely have some overflow from both the end of this year and potentially the end of our own supplemental pot. So I will be voting no, not in favor.
I can respect that. All right. The reason why I asked for that was so that we could go on to figuring out how much of our what we're taking out of supplemental we're giving to each of these people. If we're taking 15,000 out, are we just giving 15K to each of them? If we're taking 10,000 out, what are we doing?
Can I add
Sorry,
also that
real quick? Sorry, my math was bad. 15,000, 15K. No, that would be 5K split between the three. You know what I mean?
there's no requirement also to carry forward a supplemental budget. If you wanted to look at it like we're going to allocate every penny we think we have, then the supplemental budget would be created based off of circumstances that happen, empty positions, what's not spent at the end of the year, things like that. And so there is no, as nice as it is to want to set the committee up for supplemental, there is no requirement to do that. So you do have another $25,000 to reallocate should you choose to do that.
If I may, if hypothetically we were to spend all of our remaining funds, is there any guarantee that we would still have funds for the next year from departments not spending all of the money?
I will not say I will 100% guarantee it, because there is a possibility that every single area will keep every position filled and spend every single penny. With that said, that is highly unlikely.
And in a scenario where we are left with absolutely zero funds for all of 2026, what would that situation look like?
It would just mean that you have no supplemental funds to give, which means you have no, if anybody requested supplemental funds, I would respond with, I'm sorry, S&A does not have supplemental funds to give.
And that could also, by the time the committee, I mean, when you think about the timing, the committee isn't going to be formed and ready to even hear a supplemental request like this year. I think it was November by the time a supplemental request could come. And that's 5 months into the year. And so by then, there's a very high likelihood that there would be a vacant position pop up somewhere.
Well,
Or, we could find out the other kind of, levers that happen are, we could find out that there's additional students that are here paying the fee. So our revenue target is higher. I mean, the amount you have to allocate is based on our very best guess of what is going to be. Is it going to be that number? No, because things, when you have your budget and then your actual, so there are things that can change. I don't know if that's helpful.
while these are all great points to keep in mind, I would also like the committee to understand that even though there is a guarantee that we will have some overflow for next year, personally, I think it might be a tad irresponsible to fully flush out all supplemental funds simply because, as we've experienced this year, we were lucky that we had a salary savings position continuously coming in month after month. Without that, we would have been not had a whole lot of funds to work with.
I understand the position of the chair. I think from my perspective, it's easier to say no when you have nothing than it is to say no when you have something to give. And that seems to be the problem we're having at the moment.
I would like to recommend that we left 10,000 in, and that would leave us with, or we could go less, but start with leave 10,000 in and give out 15,000. So I look what in total for these three areas, it's 28,000. If I did my math right, I might have done it completely wrong, but 28,000 at these three. We have 9,147 from campus activities. That one, which one was it? Oh my goodness. Oh, publicity center. That was almost 14.
40,369.86.
Yeah, I'm so blind right now. Okay. I'm gonna look at where I went wrong with my math.
So what I'm seeing from the Slice is getting 11,000 less. So between the Slice response and the S&A, the campus activities, that's $20,000. Yes? No.
27, almost 28, 27,000.
These things were written differently. Oh, Mike. All right. I think that we should go as far down as leaving $5,000 in the supplemental so that there's at least something to start with. But we've discussed that the publicity center gets its own money, makes its own money. And this weekend we discussed that that $20,000 number they gave us is probably an undershoot. Uh, so I'm more inclined to give the money back to campus activities and Slice because I know how much of an impact that has on the students every day. Slice is like the central hub for if all of this is a spoke, all of this is a wheel. All those spokes seem to go back to Slice. They coordinate with multiple programs, not just bringing attention to them, but helping them function. And then the activities that campus activities are talking about having to look towards making smaller or getting rid of are the sorts of activities that the students would certainly be impacted by and very upset to miss out on next year, especially the new folk. Meanwhile, I very much love and appreciate what the publicity center team does, um, but they wouldn't have anything to publicize for if not for these other committees.
Yeah. I'd like to add on a point, amazing point by Vice Chair Baugh. And I like to think that if we hurt departments that are adjacent or work around like student life and student centered activities, it's like a mechanical system many ways, right? In a car, if something breaks and you just ignore it, another thing's gonna break, another thing's gonna break. And I think if we just start doing that, it could lead to just a domino effect of just depreciation of life, of student life and activities on campus because we want to elevate student experiences, employment, and just the CWU student themselves.
Now, to be the dissenting voice in the room, as my duty as his chair. Well, not duty, but I would also like to remind the S&A committee of our previous supplemental requests and the amount that has been requested by the various areas. If we were to leave 5,000, I simply want to posit realistically, how much is that going to be able to help these areas? I know that it might not be a guarantee, but something to keep in mind.
And to Alex's point, I would also like to make an additional point of clarification on that. The funding you all gave out in majority last year, or this year, was given to those areas that were not funded or underfunded last year.
Thank you, Robbie. I was actually my response to the chair's comment was going to be my understanding is the reason why they needed so much supplemental funding this year is because of how little base funding they got at the end of last year. And what we're talking about doing right now should actually mean that theoretically there should be fewer supplemental requests in the coming year than there were for as far as we had to deal with. Yeah? Or somebody tell me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
I would also like to point out that funding, for example, campus activities in as close as we can in its totality, or just in general, just not cutting funding, because their original request is everything. There's no supplemental, there's no ask. Again, this is just a one-time, hey, we have the functions to exist. Great. So I think that's another thing too, that is, giving as much opportunity to these departments that really need the funding will create opportunities for them not to actually come back and ask for funding. So great.
I want to kind of add on or go off on Alex's point because in the email they mentioned that we as the S&A asked them, why aren't you asking for more money? And I don't remember how it went, but I do remember we did ask some sort of question like that. And to me, it just does not seem right for us to ask that question and underfund them.
That sounds fair.
To further point Abby's, I would also like to mention, I believe Grace does touch it on hers, is she spoke to, they asked for exactly what they thought they needed. That was her response to why we asked her why she didn't ask for more.
And we are talking about campus activities, right? Yeah. From my perspective, I'd like to give them back the 9,000 that we cut for supplemental stock, and then take the rest of that 20,000 and give it to Slice, and then just send the publicity center an apology. That's my perspective. Please discuss.
You want to see what that looks like up here?
Yeah.
And then that would leave you, 5,000 for supplemental for going into next year. Slice would still experience a $7,000 reduction. Campus activities fully funded.
I'm listening to y'all now.
So good.
I'd like to approve that motion as it stands.
I think that we're not quite to the approval part. So we haven't, and you weren't here, but we haven't actually, you guys, not we, haven't actually voted on this yet. So we're just still sort of trying to put all the pieces together. So that's why we're kind of moving it as we go.
So yeah, so once the discussion, you guys could absolutely make the recommendation to change that funding, reduce your supplemental. Then we would take a look at everything that you've changed. If you all like what you've changed, then the motion would be to take the preliminary recommendations, make them final recommendations, and then we would move on.
Yeah, I was just throwing out my idea for how to handle this, and now I'm listening.
Abby, you go ahead first.
Okay. So previously we looked at what a 2% cut looks like. Can we see what a 1% cut looks like?
For which area in particular?
I would just also note that if you guys are fully funding, the activities for on Ellensburg campus, and this is kind of the similar budget to the online budget. Whatever.
To the online students, yes.
Put on the record, I do not agree with touching centered activities. I would. Okay, so I wanted clarification. So what Bob was looking at was fully with that 20,000 from supplemental was giving the full amount, fully funding campus activities. And then that left about 11,000, which then went to the Slice, and they would still have a cut, and then it was still 7,000 off of theirs with what's this other group? I am so blind. What's the other group? Yes.
And then my understanding is that Chair Matheson's vote was the tie-breaking vote was that we don't mess with centers and activities centers.
Yes, that was the deciding tiebreaker vote. However, once again, that was a unofficial vote, so it doesn't have any real binding power, but that was what the committee voted on and what has been stated on record, at least.
I'd like to call for a motion to reconsider that motion, actually.
Very well. I think that is a fair thing to reconsider. However, I would also like to keep in mind, considering the vote was a 2-1 split.
I'd like to point that these are Robert's rules.
Y'all, this is all just recommendations.
Yeah.
You all are discussing and making recommendations, so nothing is being voted on.
No, yeah, no. Like I said, this isn't technically an official vote. It was more so of a like in the capacity of the committee of what you guys have discussed. And because there was a tie, it went to me. And my personal opinion as the chair was to vote no.
I'm sorry for using the word vote back then.
I want to ask Alexi. I would say Alexi. So with Bod's recommendation, where if we were to only have the 20,000 from there, is there a different recommendation that you'd have for moving those around, or are you looking for like getting more from somewhere else to give more to Slice?
Well, I really like the 2% cut on centers activities, and using some of the supplementary budget and using those two together to make up the deficit.
Can I just add something that I think was brought up last time? I believe we kind of figured out that the online students pay between roughly 1.2 to 1.5 million into the S&A pot each year.
So they pay you said 1.2 million to 1.5. While we then look at here, we have, sorry, I think my eyesight's getting worse. I'm just gonna put it on record. Career Services West Side, they're asked, so they would be getting the full amount with, that is 517, 619. That is half, near or less than half of how much they are paying.
If I may, I don't think that would be an accurate mathematical standpoint, because we would I think S&A dollars doesn't, we don't have enough S&A dollars to fund every program. So is there a way to look like ratio wise? Can we put a ratio of online to in-person students and see where that 400K falls under that ratio, if that makes sense?
I like where this is going.
I mean, just kind of doing like the quick math, it's probably like 40%. Right? If it's the 500,000 of 1.2 million, and that's without, I guess
Like how many dollars do eligible students pay, and how many dollars do online students pay? And we put that on a percentage ratio so we can see how many percent, and then based on that percentage, we fund.
It's like roughly 75-25 in person to online.
Yeah, so
correct?
can we give 25 of that to the online? Because I feel like do you know, does that make sense?
Like 25
Yes.
S&A allocation.
No, like mathematically. You guys gotta use your microphone. I'm so sorry. You guys.
Roughly like 33%.
Yeah. I
Thank
think
you,
I
Ruben.
think I understand where Abby's coming from. It statistically, because of how much money they give into the S&A pot, doesn't it make sense to give a similar amount simply back to them because of their lack of presence on these campuses itself and the amount of funds that they bring to the committee itself? If we're staying equitable.
I was just thinking mathematically. I wasn't making like a proposal or anything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But if you could help us better understand what your thinking was, because I didn't quite get it. Sorry. It sounded like we were planning on using math to ensure equity, and I like the sound of that.
How many, do we know approximately how many students are at Central in total?
We use a head count of 8,100 to estimate for the revenue that was kind of the budget driver here. But I want to just caution you all that 8,100 is probably not a great number because you have students who are part-time and pay less of a fee. So it doesn't quite equal, it doesn't equate out to that. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but yes, 8,100, if you're just looking for number of students, then I think that's a good number.
I think looking at the decision before us, I would rather go into a less supplemental pot than cut an area that the committee, at the very least during our deliberations, and I'm seeing a bit of it here, believe is integral to Central and to people paying said S&A fee. So I would rather us go into a smaller number for the S&A pot to 5,000 or below than put that cost onto an area that we believe is vital enough to have these kind of discussions about.
Towards that end, even a 1% cut would only gain us 3,500, and we still have that in the pot. If we are really willing to go lower in what we already have, as opposed to do these redeliberations, which I understand.
I think it's a matter of, if we're choosing between redeliberations and taking from money that we already have, I would rather take from money we already have.
I agree.
I want to make. Can I change my vote? I would like to fully fund West Side, considering that the math that I just did right now, we should probably fully fund West Side.
It's Robert's rules kind of, but I'll note down that it was a post vote change. But
Alex, it sounds like we lost.
Wait a minute.
Can I hop in here for just one sec? I just want to just remind everybody where we're at right now on this. So this is representing no cut to the West Side Center's activities. It is fully funding campus activities. So both of those budgets are fully funded. It's taking the remainder back to Slice, which was $10,852.24, and leaving you all with a supplemental budget going into next year of $5,000. I just wanted to make sure that we had this is where we're at.
I would also like to say to the committee, the voting once again was not anything in the official Robert's Rules capacity. It doesn't have any real power with our recommendation, as that has yet to be made a motion on. So I just want that to be made aware.
Right. So where we stand at present, does anybody have an argument for the publicity center?
With that in mind, can I get one last recap of our current standing after some discussion?
Sure. So the changes that were made from last weekend are that we are reducing the amount of the supplemental budget down to $5,000, and then refunding all of campus activities, and then having the remainder of that go to the Slice, which still leaves them with a $7,000-ish reduction from what they asked for. And I think that's it.
Righty. Well, with that in mind, if I could get a point of clarification from Aaron, as not as like this will definitely happen, but from your experience, how much money tends to come back from the S&A pot at the end of the year?
So this is all complete speculation. There is a significant amount of turnover in the S&A funded permanent staff. And by salary savings, this is not student wages. So keep in mind, that's not something that gets rolled back. It takes quite a bit of time to actually go from someone leaving to then rehiring that position. Typically, they don't even start the search until the person has vacated the job. So it's usually at least I mean, honestly, it's probably closer, yeah, to 2 months because they have to post the job and then wait, however many couple weeks. And this is obviously not right. I mean, I'm just kind of just talking about it. Couple weeks, and then that person that they hire might have to do a 2-week notice. And so for every one vacancy, you're going to get at least a month's worth of salary savings, I would think.
Kind of instilling some confidence in that statement. I have student teaching next quarter, so I will, I can.
Your funds don't count.
Yeah, that's student funds.
Full-time staff only.
There
Yes.
is a department. I know, for example, that there is, at least in the slice, that might actually have to happen because of switching. Never mind. I tried to make a point there, but I don't know if I can make a point.
I agree with what
You know what I'm
just
saying?
I do, and so that pops up all the time.
Okay, good.
There's a few positions that some people might be aware of that might be going into redeliberation soon, but that is entirely up in the air still. So
There's never been a year that I know of that there were not supplemental funds available. And, based on how you all have funded these, I think that by the time an area, even one who has taken a reduction from what they asked for, it's probably going to not be, November that they're like, I need money right now because they haven't spent it yet. They're not going to probably get to the point where they really need money until, I would say maybe winter quarter.
with all this in mind, I open the floor for a motion to approve the new base funding with the supplemental reallocated.
I motion to oh man, I'm brain went blank. Yeah.
I motion to approve the new base funding allocation as discussed, where we take $20,000 from the supplemental funding that we had left over, give full funding to campus activities, and then give the rest of that $20,000 number to a slice.
I second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All opposed?
Nay.
All abstain? Motion passes 4-1-0, I believe. Let me know if I'm wrong about that.
Good job, everybody.
All righty.
Okay, so just like last weekend, I will make an edit to this, update the memo that I sent and resend to all base funding areas, letting them know that this is the committee's final recommendation to move on to PBAC and then to Board of Trustees for approval. Excellent. Okay.
All right, folks. It's a lot of heated feelings here, but ultimately, if we have the money, I would rather it go into the areas that need it right now than the potentiality of the areas who might need it in the future.
If only we had the money for everybody.
That is the case.
I'd like to thank everyone for all the hard work and you guys are absolutely awesome. So thank you for the hard work, energy, time, thoughts, everything that y'all put into the to this committee. You guys are amazing. This is my last year, so I'd love to see what happens and where you guys end up with in years from now. So you guys are absolutely amazing.
Alrighty. With that in mind,
Are we still
will-
on public comment?
No, this is new business.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can make a public comment. Go ahead, Bob.
You said go ahead. Yeah, I want to echo some of what Alex just said. It's been a year, and it was a little harder than I thought it would be, but this was, oddly enough, my favorite part of it, sitting here listening to presentations and deliberating with you guys. I'm also not going to be at the school next year, but I'm glad that I get to leave feeling like we did something good here for the students that will be here next year.
Alrighty. Well, with all that, we will be going on to our second new business item of the day, the S&A fee increase proposal.
Okay, so this beautiful box right here. Alex, see, just to catch you up. So one of the things that the deliberations resulted in is the proposal to increase the S&A fee 4% starting fall 2026. And by that, it gave you all an extra $200,000 to allocate. So now what we need to do as a committee, you all agreed that that would be the right move. So we deliberated on that amount. But now technically you have to vote to move this fee increase forward. And from here, it would go to the Student Board of Directors, so student government on April 6th. Then it would go to UPAC and then eventually to the Board of Trustees for final approval. But you all would be the one recommending the increase to S&A fees for students next year. And I want to bring up my other document real quick to make sure so you all know that the current fee is $282.50 and it would be going to $294.30, which is a total of $11.80 per quarter or a little over $33 per year for the students to pay.
I open the floor for any motions. I open the floor for also any discussion.
Motion to approve the 4% increase in the S&A fee.
I second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Alrighty. I will be the one as the Vice President of ACB representing this to the Board of Directors. So I will let you all know how that goes. Alrighty, moving on. I just see supplemental funding requests. I don't believe there is any for today. Alrighty.
No funding request for today.
Wonderful. And moving on to our old business, the reallocation of Slice to club travel for $8,500.
Yes. So if you all remember last Friday, we heard Lola came and presented that they were able to find some additional funds because they were able to use some of their foundation funds to help support the Power of You conference. And in turn, they would like to take those funds that they were going to have extra and move it over to support club travel. So that was the $8,500. So it's a reallocation. It's not coming out of our supplemental. It's just moving funds from one S&A supported area to another.
I open the floor for any discussion.
I'd like to approve that reallocation request.
I would like to suggest a motion.
Sorry, my bad. I'd like to motion to approve. I'd like to motion to approve that reallocation request. Yep.
I second.
Alrighty. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstain?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes 4-0-1. Okie dokie. Well, with that, I open up for the second call for public comment.
I'd like to make a public comment. First of all, of course, I would like to thank you all for all of your work on this quarter. Fantastic. But more importantly, I wanted to wish you good luck on your finals for finals week and to have a wonderful spring break.
Thank you so much, Aaron. And I would like to just say one last thing to the committee as a whole. For those of you who will be returning to Central next year, even if you do not return to the committee, I'm very happy to have served on this with you. You're all amazing and intelligent people. And to those of you who will not be returning, your presence has been so valued here, and you'll be really missed next year. With that in mind, I would like to suggest a motion to adjourn this meeting at 4:18.
But I
Motion
want
to
to,
adjourn the meeting at 4:18.
Oh,
I
is
second.
there a second bit of public comment? I apologize.
yeah, I wanted to just to commend all of you for your hard work and taking the time out of your schedules to serve on the committee. I know that this is a very high stakes committee, and there's a lot of emotions and feelings that come with serving on the committee and making those recommendations, and also for taking the time on the weekend to deliberate and come up with all of the recommendations that you guys did for the different S&A base funded areas. So I just want to thank you. Good luck with your finals, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you, Ruben, for
Thank you,
all you've
Ruben.
done for the school.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you.
Hey, and before you adjourn, can everybody stay? Just give me 2 minutes of your time so we can figure out our spring S&A meeting. Because I think if I have you in one room, I can get it figured out.
Yeah, I want to
We
thank
don't
all
have
of
to do
our.
it on the record. So Alex, you can end the meeting and I'll
alrighty.
stop the recording. But
Alrighty. This
Yeah.
meeting is adjourned at 4:19.
Oh, thank you.